everybody, it is Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and right now I want to ask my co-host for this live stream, do we have sound, and is the stream live?
I think so.
Do you?
We have a whole group of people here who are cheering for us to hopefully have sound.
Well, I'm sure the algorithm has no idea what I'm doing anymore at all. We have started and stopped several times in this. We've been waiting for the stream to catch us. I guess that's how we're going to ring in the new year. So I'm Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and what I intend to do today, with any luck, is to show you how you at home can create this mountain, maybe? Nope, we're still going. Okay.
We're still going.
Step by step.
They're cheering for sound.
Step by step, fully for new painters. I'm going to explain every part of the process. I'm going to explain every technique that you're going to use. And to help me do that is my husband, John.
Hey, guys.
Who deals with the technical challenges of YouTube, maybe?
Oh, there's a theory.
There's a theory. He also live switches during these live streams and makes sure that one of our cameras is on the action of what I'm doing in the painting. And that's going to really help you succeed at home because it's going to let you see the technique really accurately and help you replicate it yourself. Now, if you check the description below, there's a link to our website. And if you go there, you're going to see in our video tab that you can go to this page with this image in it. Open it up. There's more information about materials. There's more extra videos that might help you. There's just different things that you might need to know that we kind of can predict are going on. On top of that is a step-by-step. And I highly recommend you print it out. I think step-by-steps are very helpful because one, it does help you factually to have a reference printed out. Even though we do provide picture-in-picture, it does help you to have that reference. And the step-by-step keeps you from getting lost in a more complicated painting like this one. You guys ready to go over the materials?
I don't know if I should play a prank on you until we have to do it over again. But we're all good. Everyone's here.
I think we've lost sense of humor on that.
But everyone's here.
Let's do this again real soon.
They're ready. Everyone's
really?
Definitely. Yeah.
You sure? Because I was going to teach this painting, but okay. So he seems to think he can handle that. All right. So I'm going to put this aside. And we're going to look at the surface. I'm going to use an artboard just because that's convenient for me. I have a lot of paintings. I have to store them. This isn't better than a stretch canvas. It's just an alternative to a stretch canvas. And if you're painting a lot, it does make storage easier. On here, on this 11 by 14 surface, so it's 11 high by 14 long, I have some wishes and intentions to go into the new year, which is harmony and inspiration. I wish that for everybody everywhere. I just wish peace and harmony in your life wherever you are, and tons of inspiration. I have over here some paint colors. I have phthalo blue, phthalo green. This is carbon black. You could use Mars black. I have burnt umber, cadmium yellow, cadmium red, quinacridone magenta, dioxazine purple, titanium white. I also have burnt sienna. I know I'm going to be using some zinc white, which for reasons I don't know isn't here right now. I'm going to be using some of this fluid paint with a splattering tool for the stars. I have extra videos about that on the webpage, so you can learn how to splatter stars and do that easier with different tools. So even if you don't have this set of tools, you can still accomplish the techniques. I also have some interesting brushes. I'm going to be demoing these Big Hog rounds. These are number 12 Silverstone rounds. Several of you asked me, could I incorporate that in today's painting because you wanted to work on those techniques? And I was like, absolutely, for sure. I have my dotting and splattering tool. There's my dotting tool. You could use the back of a small detail brush. Don't get stressed. Now, these are synthetic O mops. So this particular one is called the 1-inch Ultimate Varnish Brush by Silver Brush Limited. It is my favorite blender by far. You could also use goat mops. I find them to be problematic, except in the dry blending. They really do shed a lot into your painting. Here's another example of a small little blending one. This is a round blender by Princeton that works for some of these techniques. And I'm going to be using some big brushes to blend this in. Now, if you're doing the mops on this piece, I highly recommend having a bunch of paint towels to the side, because one of the ways that we make this technique really work for us is that we pull all the extra moisture out of the brush, and that's going to allow us to get a good blend. Now let's begin with the colors that we're going to start with, which is going to be in the blue and green and some cadmium yellow and titanium white. So that's where we're going to begin our painting.
While you're doing that,
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
If you're going to tell me that there's no painting,
Oh no,
again, I'm going to be like,
Denise
"Hi,
passes
Denise.
along.
How are you doing?"
Giant Happy New Year to our family. Lots of love, lots of hug, and lots of support for our patronage. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I really appreciate it this morning. It was kind of a journey to get here. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right. So I'm going to put this out here. How are we doing? Or did the system even send us out at all?
Oh yeah, no, we're good.
Okay.
We're all good. And so
I didn't know with the live or not if we were going to get into recommended in any kind of a way.
Yeah, I think we're doing okay.
Okay.
But,
all right.
You know, it's funny. Whenever you take something apart, put it all the way back together, it works perfect.
We could maybe test these before the show. I don't know.
I thought it was working.
I'm going to take a number 30 short-handled ruby satin. If you have my big, beautiful, long-handled red number 30, anything in this sort of size range, guys. And I'm going to begin kind of laying in the background. Now, I'm going to very carefully do a little trick here. I'm going to mist it with my micro mister. The trick with these artboards is if you over wet them, they bend. So you have to keep it so damp that it's like just the softest kiss of dew. Can you do the softest kiss of dew? Perhaps you can. I hope so. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to start with a little of my white and yellow together. And on the right-hand side, in the middle, I'm going to start to pull up, see what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
Our bright area. And I like to do this early on to keep this very bright, especially with the yellows and the oranges on the nebula. It's really going to help us. You can see I'm just grabbing a little bit. And I'm kind of focusing my spiral here towards the left-hand side, not on center, because here's center. So a little bit off center to the left, because that's where we're going to put our focal galaxy. So even though there's tons of blending to do between there and now, it's good to set ourselves up for success later. Sometimes in painting, experience is just knowing what you're going to do to set yourself up for success at a later time.
Mm-hmm.
You know that the paint's going to do a thing. You know it's going to work out a certain way. All right, there we go. How is that?
That looks great.
So once we have that in, I'm going to do an interesting thing. I'm going to take a palette knife. This is an artist knife. And I'm going to take 1 part blue and 1 part green, and I'm going to mix them together, 1 on 1. And this is going to make phthalo turquoise. Now, you can just buy this color, done by the paint companies perfectly for you. I just tend to mix it. Because, I don't know, maybe lazy. I'm not really sure. I just tend to mix it. I'm going to go ahead and load that up into my brush. And I'm going to begin to finish out how this round goes. So I'm coming from where the yellow sort of centered up. And I'm going to pull this out here. This is not the full galaxy, guys. This is just how I'm going to begin the shaping. You can kind of see how I curve these strokes.
Yeah.
For the galaxy. And it can be rough. It doesn't have to be like perfect in any way. We're just beginning to put that energy and motion into the sky. You can see these colors are pretty transparent. Right? And I don't want to get too much of the blue down where I have my yellow. And that looks pretty good. If everything is still wet, I can do a very interesting thing. I can take any dry brush. This is the goat mops that I'm not as fond of. And I can, while it's dry, use this to kind of blend out, as you can see, the color that I've already applied. And you'll see real fast, one of the issues I have with the goats, besides the fact that they will shed a little bit on your painting, is they just tend to hold a little bit too much moisture. But you can make them work. Just use what you have, what you're comfortable with. And just know these are about preferences more than anything else. And I'm not saying something is good or bad. I'm saying I have a preference for an outcome. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So we get that first layer on, and I am going to continue to layer this up, but to do that, I'm going to dry this a little bit.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah. And so while she's doing that, I will remind you to not use heat, because heat can cause color shift and shrinkage and all sorts of problem in your paint, and it can make it sticky and tacky for the next layer. So make sure that when you're drying your surface, to not use heat. Make sure it's on the coolest setting, and that'll help take care of any of that stuff. Especially here, where you've got these thinner layers, you don't want them to be hot. You do want them to be dry, but not hot, because they'll get sticky. So there's a general. That's what she's checking for right now.
How are we doing?
Good.
I'm gonna put out another color on my palette. You ready for your next color?
Yeah.
Dioxazine purple. Dioxazine and phthalo blue make very lovely dark sky colors. So often I will get excited about those and doing those. Now I'm going to go ahead and I've got this damp and ready, so I'm going to grab just some of my purple into some of my blue, right? You could be using this brush as well. You could be using a Princeton. It doesn't really matter. I just want something that's going to let me softly begin to pull in the depth of my space. Space, the final frontier. These are the journey. What is the voyages of the Starship Enterprise? Sorry.
That's okay.
Geek faceplant. All right. Here we go. Breathe in, breathe out, guys. Sometimes when you're painting and you're taking on a new technique, it can feel really intimidating. And you'll find that you're not breathing as you should be. Continuing to deepen these wonderful layers. Because these colors are a bit transparent, you got to do this in layers. I can see little hairs are getting in my canvas. Grr. And again, the issue here is, and I'm going to switch to my other mop. I just was asked to demo this so people could see how it would work. It's just a little bit wetter than I would like for acrylic. Lovely for watercolor. Lovely in the dry brush. A little bit soggy for my taste on the blend, but you can see it'll get you there.
Yeah.
Now, rinse. I'm going to strengthen some of my light color over here. I'm going to take a little bit of my white, smidge of my yellow. And just make sure that I have a nice foundation for the reds and oranges and stuff I'm going to be coming back with on the mountain. And again, our focal for our Galaxy is a little bit off center, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And how many hoots do you say this one is? How difficult?
I put this one at a 3 hoot because we've got a lot of layers. I would say it's one of those 3 hoots. It's not like the 3 hoot of the still life. It's a good entry 3 hoot. If this is your first, this is a good first 3 hoot level. Because these will be all techniques that you've been introduced in your 1 hoot and 2 hoot classes.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll start pulling all those together. There'll be tools that you're familiar with. So it's a very good entry 3 hoot. The beginning of your 3 hoots. That's pretty nice. Okay. I'm going to see if I can do the Galaxy arm with this as I'm kind of going, and maybe some of the other blending.
Yeah.
So take your purple and load this up onto your brush, maybe a little bit of blue. And then we're going to just, not really. I don't love it. I'm going to go to my favorite. It's okay. It's fine. If this is your favorite brush, don't be like, oh, she said my favorite brush isn't great. Your favorite brush is perfectly great. I just really expect my brushes to do very specific things. So I'm going to get into my silver mop, dry this up so I can make this work.
All right. Yeah, and she's just drying that off. That's like you were saying, especially these mops, any of the layers underneath, if they're not fully dry, the mops really get sticky on them and you don't get a good result. So she's just taking the time to, between those two, make sure she's got the nice dry surface that's not going to be sticky or put any weird drag on the on the paint unnecessarily. So I think that's, yep. I was worried that you were gonna I was like, I didn't know if I needed to keep talking or.
Yeah, keep talking. So what you saw me doing there, where I was like running my little fingers over the canvas and flicking up, those were all hairs that got left by the goat. And I pre-wash my brushes and I use quality brushes. That's just the nature of those. In this type of media, the paint is very sticky and it tends to pull or break the hair. So it'll pull it into your surface, and then especially if you're trying to do anything vigorous, and then also it'll wear out quicker. So that's why I prefer that. That's why I'm like very specific about I like synthetic with acrylics, because they're more resilient and they hold up and they don't break. But if you do get a bunch of hairs, the time to remove them is as you're drying. And as you saw me, I would dry and flick.
Yeah.
Dry and flick and dry and flick. So if you've ever wondered, how do I get this pet hair or goat hair or bristle out of my paint, that is the stage in which you do that. Now I'm going to get this brush just a little bit wet. And I'm going to go ahead and, already, you can even see on the load, just so much nicer. And I'm going to begin to work, the Galaxy space on. So you can kind of see me wiggling on the edge of my brush, and it's just covering better.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. Can you get there? Sure. It just might be a longer, more frustrating journey. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it.
Oh, so thank you, Patty. She just is, of course, super supportive of our heat talk here.
She supports the heat talk. Thank you for supporting the heat talk, Patty.
And what I was saying is that it's really important to make sure they're thoroughly dry between the layers, because that mop drags on the paint when it's just tacky and semi-dry.
Yeah, it does. This technique only works if this surface is very dry, so you can work and glaze on top of it. So in your acrylic paint, what you're going to find is there's these two stages in which blending and nice diffused effects work. And that's either wet into wet, where the paint is, very blendable and still highly wet, or working over dry paint in a glazing method, as we're doing now. So I'm just darkening these colors. And the reason I'm darkening these in the way that I am is this is the depth of space. And I don't want it to be some boring old black. So even though my value is deep, using the Dioxazine purple and the phthalo blue, I won't use any black up here in the sky. You can see I'm just wiggling this out. And what's nice is this brush tends to blend even as it works into the dry brush. When I need to change colors, I rinse out thoroughly. And you can see it's wet, right? It's designed to hold varnish or any kind of liquid medium or water. And so you've got to pull out the extra moisture. But when it is damp, I think it's just an easier to work with tool. See kind of the difference in the shape and the clumping?
Yeah.
And I can really, shape this. I work a little harder and it doesn't want to hold it. See how it springs back? It wants to come back because it's hair. This, however, is not hair. So I can make a fan style. I can make it into lots of things. And that's why you would care. Now I'm going to load up a little bit of my turquoise, smidge of my white into it, and begin to get that color of the sky in and blend it back into the darker values, as we like to do. Loading. See me brushing back and forth? And I'm just come here and this is that first stage. The first little foyer into all the gaseous awesomeness that is space. Sorry. I don't know why I get so excited. I think I like painting the space paintings because John, really enjoys them. So it's one of those times when he's very excited about the artwork.
It's true.
So you can kind of see I'm just wiggling these shapes around. What am I looking for? I'm looking, this is going to explode your brain, for nothing.
What do you mean?
What I mean by that is I don't want to see hard lines or rigid shapes or patterns that are jumping out at me. It needs to feel like a diffused nothingness. That's my goal.
Gotcha.
Little bits of elements of something, but nothing that's obviously anything. How funny is that, right? Get really into my white right here because I know I'm going to be translating into my lighter little nebulas. I'm going to have to go get my tinting or zinc white fairly soon.
I'll see if I can find that for you.
Yeah. No, it's easy for me to get.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just over on the cart. I just probably reach over one-handed and see it and get it and... Oh, no, I'm totally lying.
It is not easy for you to find.
No, it is not easy for me to find. It's the golden tube, and it is not there.
At least you can narrate your adventures.
I don't know what is going to be happening with that.
Do you know why you can do that?
Why can I do that?
Because we have sound.
We have sound. I'll keep painting.
I'll find your paint.
I think I have an alternative with the Senlier acrylic, so I'll probably grab that. Yeah, I always put tubes of paint. I lay things out ahead of time so that I'm ready to go, but there's always something, like one thing. You don't test before we go. All right, so I'm going to continue to just sort of tap this out. No, it's definitely, I must have moved it when I was moving things around. You know how I like to move things around, and now I got to find my white. I'm going to say the cart is where it's likely to be, but I don't know where in that cart. Okay, so you see that I've created a general sort of nothing. I'm going to get my tinting white and rinse this out super thoroughly.
Yeah.
John can zoom around.
I will. Look over here.
And I will be in my cart looking for things that should be here. I have Graham and Company's zinc white. That'll work.
Today it will.
It's just fine. So why zinc white? Why tint white and titanium white?
What is that?
So the zinc or tinting white or mixing white, any of those three names basically mean the same thing, even though they're slightly different products. They essentially accomplish the same goal, which is to slightly lighten or create a hue change, not a hue change, a value change without changing the hue, the color. So you want it to be lighter or darker, but not change the base color. And so this does a better job of that. So if I take it and go boop, 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 and I get a little of my turquoise in there, and it's very transparent, and that's another nice thing about it, is that it's super transparent. So I can come in here and wiggle these things out. I'm done creating these little atmospheric bits. And look how the brush helps me. The brush says, I am crazy haired today. And I say, that's exactly what I need for my galaxies. Crazy haired brush. Crazy haired brush is a wonderful brush. And just get those in there. So it's little more micro changes, softer transitions, if you will. You can even get a little like yellow into the mix and make an even brighter anything I want. And begin to lighten that space here. See, I'm just tapping the brush up and down and letting its weird shape help me make clouds. Is that good?
Yeah.
All right. Just want to say hi to anyone who made it today.
I'm sorry that I'm like super focused on my switching today because there's just a bunch of changes that I've made. So I've got other changes to make next time that'll make things easier on me, but right now I have to like
the theory of the changes did not.
Well, it is. It's all it is that certain shortcuts don't work the way that the other ones did. I could explain it technically,
well,
but
that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to explain this technically, though.
That
I'm
seems like a more
taking the
appropriate
zinc
use of-
white and I am loading it into my brush, and I'm creating kind of a field that's a little bit, are you noticing, like whiter
Mm-hmm.
and lighter? And I'm tapping this brush up and down. Anywhere that I start to see is something, I kind of try to blend it out and make it a nothing. There we go. And it becomes a nothing. And that's the goal. Take it from something to a nothing. And just, you can just play with this. It's just so enjoyable to do. And take this and get this wet again. And I'll take a little of my zinc over here, over to my purple and blue mix. And if you'll see that again, it's still quite purple, but it's not that creamy milk that sometimes we tend to get with just titanium white and doxazine. And I'll start to put in the diffusion of tone and value up here. Creating those wonderful effects. And then you can always get darker paint involved and come back in to your lighter paint, as you can see. Need to soften it. I always like to keep a dry brush around. Look. Soft. So, real doable, real achievable. Just making those little moments in your sky.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what I've got to do is start to work some galaxy and some lightness and some different things. So I'm going to get right into my tinting white, and I load it up and down. I'm tapping my brush up and down. And I'm going like that. See how I'm making that stippling effect?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start to curve a little arm here. And if I need to, I can always come with my second brush and, look, lighten it up. Look at that. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So, the other thing that I can do, because again, I said I'd demo some of these, is you can take one of these. I'm going to just load it up. And you can use this if you're having a little trouble getting that sort of galaxy arm space happening, and you just want a more pointed brush, you can do that. I really like using the mop, but this is a very good cloud galaxy brush as well. Does a nice soft diffused anything that you ask it to do. And it's about building those layers up. And tapping up and down and start to build up that layer of the galaxy arm. Layer, layer, layers. There we go. I'm going to just continue to lighten up the center a bit as we go. Incrementally, small bits.
There we go.
Here we go. What's going now?
Oh, just everything is starting to work a little better for me now.
Is it?
Yeah. So, it's like, again, I love doing what I do. It has some technical challenges sometimes. And,
I'm worried how the having to edit that crazy beginning is going to go.
what I'm crazy about is I drift off and I'm paying something technical, and I look back over here, and then there's this little picture emerging on your surface that just sort of trips me out. And there's a little galaxy forming here in the background.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing. We're just sort of forming a little galaxy. Look at that. Lift, 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 lift. Tap. So this brush stroke, right?
Yeah.
Where am I engaging? I'm engaging the brush here on the corner. I'm engaging the brush on the tip. I'm sort of tapping up and down, and there's a wiggle motion, isn't there?
Ooh, there is.
Yeah, that's what you're seeing. And I'm just mentally in my mind's eye drawing these little arcs and things that are going to come out and be there.
Mm.
I'm going to rinse that out. And then I can come in, say, with a little bit of my titanium white on this same brush. And maybe strengthen some of what we're saying here with a stronger white. You see?
I do see.
You can do this all with the mop brush as well. In fact, it's sometimes, I think, a little easier. But my point in doing this is to say, hey, it all work. Probably do it with my finger too. It's really just about having a sense of what you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
You'll see I skip spaces and I'll just make maybe little warmer, hotter spots that are more defined in that galaxy arm. Now, there's tons of layers as we build it up, right? So
Oh, yeah.
don't get too excited yet. You've got more work to do. How's everybody doing? Do we have any questions?
Really good.
I'm going to do these arms all the way around, so...
I was just at a place where I was over-scrolling through and looking at this and just seeing what the questions were that came up here. And I'm not sure if this is one of those things where, you know, is it Louis? Is it Louis? Is it Luis? But our... I'm going to guess Luis because there's 3 vowels.
Okay. I said go for that.
Yeah. How long have you been painting, Cinnamon?
I'm very blessed in that art has been a part of my entire life. My mom was an artist and my grandmother was an artist. And I think on my dad's side, we've got photographers and artists. There's just my grandma Betty, a lot of artists. So I've always had this in my life. So my whole life. But I would say professionally, probably since my mid-20s. I will let you guess the math.
So,
no
Renee,
need to help you out here too much, right?
Renee would like to know, could you do this with a sponge?
You could.
The Sheriff of Nottingham would like to know, could you do it with a spoon?
I would say a spoon would be more challenging, but here's what I would say. Here's the thing. Can you do this with craft paint? Yes. Can you do it with a sponge? Yes. Could you do it with a spoon or your fingers or a brush you made yourself?
Palette
yes.
knife?
The key to being able to do this is to understand the result you're looking for and then to be centered in your tool enough to know how you're going to get it. There's almost no tool that I can't get this from as long as it will apply paint to the canvas. I've done these with makeup blenders. Just anything that you've got going on, it will get you there. But what's important is to know how you want these little bright pops of highlight to happen, right? That's what you're trying to get to. Is how do I get to these little bright pops of highlight? How do I get this diffused kind of cloud effect? How does that happen? And then figuring out how your tools will get you there. I could do this all with a bright on the corner of a bright, you know? So it's so tempting to get caught in the brush.
Right. So I guess you could do it with a spoon. It would just hurt more.
It would just be time consuming and involved. But, you know, you ever seen somebody paint on a grain of rice?
It's true.
Yeah,
there's a hard way of doing everything.
Well, or those guys that do those involved art pieces in the sand. So I'm taking my zinc and I am using the natural kind of round and irregular shape of this brush now to help me make round irregular cloud shapes. Because nebulas are kind of gas clouds. You might have heard that in the past. I think it's a good idea to start to maybe create some light zones. But see, the zinc creates a transparent light zone.
Yeah.
Can you use titanium white? Sure, but you have to know how to make your titanium white transparent and still stick to the canvas.
And zinc really does this very naturally, just out of the tube without much complicated
work. Much less work. It's something, if you're painting regularly, you should have in your paint box. If you're painting once or twice, don't worry about it.
But it's a tool.
It's a tool you will want to add as you can.
It's interesting how I see painting as this combination of learning these technical skills that you then have as a tool to express yourself with.
I'm doing a soft blend with a dry brush here, as you guys can see.
Yeah.
And so this is going to allow this space to maybe be a little bit softer and not have a hard edge. And then you want to rinse these out and have them put to the side so you can do it again. If I come back with a damp one, I can continue to do that, if you'll see. Hair from the goat.
So it's like the zinc white isn't absolutely necessary, but it's just another really easy way to express that idea.
I would say once you're painting at the 3-hoot level, invest in the zinc white.
Yeah. But like to start out.
No, not your first day. So this would be a tough first painting.
This would be a tough beginner.
Well, this is a beginner piece because I'm still explaining all the techniques.
Yeah.
So how do you understand if a painting is for a beginner? Because the teacher is still explaining all the techniques. Mm-hmm. When you're intermediate and advanced, a lot of the stuff, like me talking about how I drag my brush back and forth and dry brush and this scumbling technique, that's not going to be explained to you.
Right.
But if the teacher's going to slow down and say, I'm engaging the brush here on the toe across the angle and I'm wiggling this around and tapping up and down, you're still in that beginner space. I have 3 stages of beginner because you've got to learn all these basic techniques.
Yeah. And
layers and all kinds of things. And then as you get yourself built up, you just keep adding and adding, and then eventually I'm just pulling these little things up here. Sometimes I like to get a little yellow engaged. There's what?
I just think it's really cool how you like when you add zinc white to your toolkit, it adds another level of like sophistication. Ooh, there's a word. It makes your paintings more sophisticated.
It's very sophisticated. So I've created this sort of irregular mottled background. I'm going to switch back into my wonderful little mops. But you can see it's just whatever you got, guys. Whatever you got. And remember, you can always come back and layer, layer, layer. You can layer here, you can layer there. There's no shortage to how much you might want to layer what you've got going on. Now, at this stage, however, if your background and you're okay here, you're going to put out your fluid paint. Put it on your thing. Not too much. You don't need that much. You're going to take your splattering tool. Remember, I have a whole video on different ways to splatter stars. And I'm loading up my splattering tool. This is part of my Galaxy set. And I'm going to flick back lightly on the filament. And the paint is going to come forward in little droplets, and that's going to make a field of star effect.
Yeah. I was just putting a little picture up there so they could see kind of where that. And you don't have to worry about flicking down below because that's where the mountains are going to be.
Mountains going to be there, and we're going to hand put in stars and stuff as we go. So we just want this sense of a field of stars kind of going. As you can see all around my canvas, it goes everywhere.
It does a little.
It really does.
That's okay.
If you don't want to be having little patches of very thick, opaque white, it's a good idea to dry it now.
So while she's drying that, I'm going to say, just real quick, if you were curious about the difference between oil and acrylic, it has a lot to do with the carrier medium by which the pigments are delivered to the surface. In acrylic paint, it's a plastic acrylic carrier. And as it cures, water evaporates from it and a chemical bond happens, thus causing it to be a plastic. That's why you hear we say it's plastic base. It reacts to heat. You shouldn't use heat because it can cause the chemical reaction to alter in ways that's unpleasant. It can shrink. It can cause color shift. It can get chalky. But if you don't use heat, you don't have that problem. Student paints have more of that problem than pro paints because the quality of the acrylic lake and carriers that are inside there, the binders. So in oil, there isn't acrylic. It's using oil, quite literally, like sometimes very fine oils and linseed oils, I think. I actually don't know a whole lot about that, but the oil is the carrier instead of the acrylic binder. And that's ultimately the difference between oil and acrylic is that what carries the pigment to the surface.
Yes.
So
That's correct,
we're just asking what was the difference between oil and acrylics.
You have picked up a thing or two.
You know, I got a little education by hanging out.
Some things have occurred to you. All right, so we're going to mix a little of our phthalo green and phthalo blue again.
Those come from the wild phthalos.
The wild phthalos.
It's a chemical. There's no real phthalos.
No,
They're
there
just
is
chemical.
no real phthalos. I'm also going to put out my cadmium red and my quinacridone magenta.
No phthalos were harmed in the making of this pigment.
Well, hopefully.
Free all the little quinacridones.
I got to free my little cadmium red here. Now, this is real cadmium red. This isn't hue. One way that you can save money on your paint is to get hue. Though whenever you switch to a hue, you will lose some brightness in your color.
What is a hue?
Hue is something that looks like the pigment a bit visually to the eye, but is not the pigment.
So, yeah. And
So,
you can especially
like
see that.
manganese is always going to be hue because it's not safe and it's not light fast. So you're not going to find I think a true manganese. There's certain colors. A true alizarin lake is not as light fast as it needs to be. The old Prussian blue. There are new formulations for these because they don't hold up.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a little turquoise into my brush here, and I'm going to get it on this little edge.
Ooh. You just squeeze that down to make that edge, huh?
And I'm going to come through here and sort of define maybe the spaces between these a bit. As I'm going. Tapping up and down. Defining it a bit.
I really like the dimension that comes in as you add the different colors. Like this.
Oh, I worked so hard on this. Oh my goodness, the designing of this and the layering of this, it was a journey.
Amazing. And this is the layering on this is turning out really good.
Getting a little bit of that nice, softer kind of effect out there.
Yeah.
And you can see I just use the brush to help me capture those soft cloud forms.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they ever get like that, I can always come back with a second brush and just be like, oh, no. Soften it up. It's all looking pretty good. Now let's start getting in these lower nebulae. So the first part is I'm going to take a little bit of my cad red into a lot of my quinacridone magenta. And I may have to put another bit of my tinting white out because there's a lot of color around this that I don't want to get into this mix. So I'm going to put that out, maybe a little more generously than that. There we go. And you can see how it lightens it without changing the hue. Begin to come here, and I've got this little corner, as you can see right here.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm tapping and making little circular motions up and down. That's to get this little bit of just gas kind of coming up there. Just very light touches, see? And then we're just, here we go. Then maybe this far side, there we go. Put up here. If you've got to wipe out any extra pigment, and then you can come back in to tinting white, and maybe even just some pure quinacridone, which you'll see is much pinker. And let's work a little bit of this softer pink through here.
And
again,
you made
corner.
Did you make that turquoise?
Yes. The turquoise, the one we just made?
Yeah, the one there, right on there. I was like, someone asked in chat, they were like, is that turquoise with zinc? And I was like, I'm pretty sure you mixed that right there. You didn't
this is turquoise with zinc right here.
Okay.
And this is cad red and quinacridone with zinc right there.
Yeah, it's like
They're
I didn't think you
very
had
specific, wonderful little colors.
I don't remember you having a tube of teal
No, I don't
or
have any phthalo turquoise, and I like to mix it. Just 1 part phthalo blue, 1 part phthalo green. Voila. Now I'm going to come in and maybe add a little thoughtful pink while I've got it mixed up here, kind of
oh
coming
yeah.
up the arm. A little heavier as we... And you can see that the way the brush breaks up, it really helps me perhaps to get this done a little bit better. I can always go into my Quinn and my thing and continue to create wonderful little cloud forms. And then really put it down here, as we like to. A little more tinting white. Show you some cool tricks here. Get a little yellow into it. Make some nice forms. So forms, when I say that, what I'm talking about is just the outer edge, the contour shape. Rinsing out thoroughly, pulling out any extra moisture. Let's kind of soften everything. So I'm going to just come here and softly blend these two spaces together. Turn the brush over. Continue a circular tapping motion. Maybe I come get more zinc. That's the top of that. So it's a bit of a thing. It's a bit of a journey. And then we can come down here and really work it. You can also come in and get a little bit of the yellow and the cad red and work that up into here now too. Building up those darker, more really adjusted values right here. Let's get a little hint into that. Over here on this corner. We're starting to build it up, aren't we?
They really are. It's turning really nice.
Let's get a little of this again. These two. And make sure this is bright and defined.
Now,
That will really help us when we want to, like, let's push a little line kind of forward here. I'm pushing the brush in to create that little line forward.
Now, if you had just started painting.
Like just?
Yeah.
I would say that this is a goal.
This is
Hashtag painting goals.
So about how far in would you need to be? About how many paintings?
I would say when you're doing 2 hoots and you are pretty confident in your basic techniques like dry brushing, blending, the tools, the materials, and the terms, right? Where you're like not feeling completely lost in those, then it's okay. This is a really good first 3 hoot. Very good first 3 hoot for you to cut your teeth on. Continue with that pink across. Again, using the tinting white and some of that, so. Maybe I like to pop a little of this, just maybe a little kiss of that here and there. As we do. Let's put a little bit right here. And again, you know, use the step-by-step, use the extra videos. You know, and also, even if it's a little over your head, sometimes go for it. You're going to pick up a technique. You're going to pick up something. You're going to learn something. You know, you have to, there's a couple things we try to get out of our painting. We try to get a good painting, But then we're also trying to learn new ways to get into our good painting. When I want to kind of curve in, I can come on the little edge there.
I love how these arms come in. I was
See, I'm
thinking,
just tapping that up and down and arcing that curve.
you went all Addams Family, and I was going all sci-fi.
Well, that just sums us up perfectly. And I'm just squishing this brush, aren't I? I know the result I want. So whatever it takes to get there
This is great.
is just fine.
I love the Galaxy ones you do. They're some of my favorites.
Me too. Getting a little of my yellow and tinting white. I'll come here and maybe define out some of this. Like I said, it's a long day.
This is good.
There we go. So let's take a minute.
Take a moment.
I think I heard a person. Hey, person. I need someone to microwave my coffee.
Oh, I'll come microwave your coffee. You turn around and see.
No, they're going to get it.
Oh.
Oh, did the dog name food? Okay.
Oh, that's what was that? That was?
That's what that was.
I was like, I thought you were dragging your brush. I was like, that's some ASMR brush action happening over there.
That is Spider believing the dog is not eating enough.
Oh, okay.
You know how that goes.
I'm all having a panic moment over here, just mildly going, what's happening?
So right now what you're looking for is you should start to be getting like these soft forms that are curving and taking shape.
They are.
These irregular nebulous gas giants that are happening here that we can see out, our field of stars. We're layering these up. Now up close on it, and what I'd love you to do is zoom in up close to a spot like this, which is pretty rough, and then zoom away. So they understand the difference between being close to a piece.
Oh, right,
if I go like
right
that.
there, yeah.
There. Now
And then
zoom
you can-
away, and so they can see it.
Yeah, you can see around that those little brush strokes, and then as you pull out is when it really comes in.
So you can see that it changes dramatically as you back up. What's my point? Back up.
Take
Every
a
once
step.
in a while, stand up, not just for your health, not just for your body, but stand and walk across the room and look. It really helps because when you're up on your painting, the painting is a hot mess up close.
It's true.
Just always. Even surprisingly enough, often hyperrealism is much more messy up close than you think. It's just large and massive in scale with incredible value and technique, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you get really up on the paint. It's still paint. Making little brush strokes. So something important to think about.
Yeah, man, this has turned out super nice.
It's getting there. It's getting there. I had planned us a long one because the system had been loving long ones and you guys had been asking for long ones.
Oh, they're enjoying this. This is definitely, I think the long ones are doing better for us.
Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put in some yellow. Here, yellow. I'm going to go ahead and get some yellow. And you can see that is just the zinc and my yellow. And I'm going to begin to come from here. We have to begin to get this glow in.
Oh, yeah.
I'm letting the little brush kind of make its little thing. Let the brush do the work for you, man. The brush needs to do the work for you. Don't you work for that brush. You make that brush work for you. And the reason the yellow and the white is we're talking about the glow coming from the center of this.
The spiral arm of the glow.
Yeah. There's this wonderful sort of glow that is afoot that you want to begin to capture. And so tapping up and down, random movements, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the edge. Doesn't really matter the tool, same principle. The principles are the same, even as the tools change. Q-tip Galaxy, same thing. Same.
Yeah. You could do it with sponges.
Sponges very easily.
Spoons would be difficult.
Spoons are more challenging, yes, I agree. Spoons may be more of a challenge than one would think. I might come into some white here again. In the center.
In the center.
Kind of, you want to catch this little center space right here that you define as your center of the arm.
That's where the black hole lives. Supermassive one. Giant center of that.
Is that what's there?
Yep.
Sorry, black hole.
Oh, no, it's just perfectly fine there. Happily.
Eating the galaxy.
It's the power that fuels that whole thing spinning.
Make a nice little defined arm right here.
Oh, that looks nice.
Bring a little bit up here. I like to
Now,
now what you're going to see me do here, I'm going to do an interesting thing.
which white?
This is now I'm into my titanium white.
Okay.
And you're going to see me wiggle the brush and kind of drag out on some of those little arms. And then I'm going to wiggle it back in. And that's how I'm going to get that kind of like flinging away star effect.
Mmm.
See? Wiggling back and forth. That's what we're getting. More tinting in there if I need it. You want to be on the tip and kind of just pulling these out. See how they're going?
Yeah.
So they're there, but they need to be spiraling out. I'm having fun. Hopefully you guys are having fun too. Wiggle, wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle. See that? So I'm hoping you can catch this. There's a wiggle on the edge.
Yep.
And then I'm lifting as it wiggles out. I'm lifting as it wiggles out. And creating these light, little airy bits of something.
It really does, man. It turns that into millions and millions of stars.
Millions and billions and trillions of stars. You know, and we still got nice something for the mountain to think about.
Yeah.
Because the mountain needs to think about what it's done.
Go over there and sit where you formed.
Think about what you've done, Mr. Mountain. Think about it hard. Now, I kind of want to come back with a little turquoise here because I feel like it just didn't define as well as I would have liked. So I'm going to take my zinc and a smidge of the turquoise color that I mixed. And let's come here and really build this back down into the pink a bit. We don't want to make purple. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to make sure that some of that comes back. And if you lose stuff, if you lose any of these colors where you're like, man, I really wanted more of that here, you just put those back. You don't worry about it. You're good, you're good, you're good. Let's finish out our little nebula. It's fussy, I know.
It's turning out pretty fantastic.
I love that baby yellow. Pull that in here. Okay, here. Kind of coming out from that arm, right? And I will get in with the pink almost like very specifically with a brush to work the rest of that definition. A little bit of yellow and some of my little zincs here. Maybe put some right here. Look at that. That's some interesting stuff. It's just good to keep it interesting.
It is. I always like when we have the repeating numbers.
Do we have repeating numbers right now?
555. Well, actually, we blew past it, but it's when we go 555. I always like it because I think of Daft Punk's Interstellar,
Oh,
and
okay.
this reminds me of that a little bit. So
Everyone must be a little busy today.
just
All right. Just pulling that in there. Now I'm going to get into my pink and pull a little more of my tinting white into it. You can see it's just the magenta, which is going to give you a very different. Important to get into it. I like to really, really work these little shapes.
yeah. I love how the galaxy, how these clouds come together and these space clouds.
Wiggle, 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 wiggle. So now I'm tucking some pink here. There's some yellow peeking out. Things are wiggling. You want them to wiggle. I'm going to get some light pink. You know, sometimes it's real fun if you take a little bit of the light pink and the yellow. They make a very interesting, warm little color that you can, it's going to peek beautifully out of the mountain. And we do want them to peek beautifully from wherever they are. Maybe a little real strong magenta right here. Like that. That just pops. And you can see on this one, you can see the angle I'm kind of rocking that brush, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got some cad red and magenta together. They are super stunning in relationship to each other. Find highlights or spots to focus on. Refocus some of that here, and even where I'm going to put this little focal star out here, right?
Mm.
There's going to be a little focal star out there, and I need to make sure I've got some interesting gas. Sorry. I am a small boy, apparently, laughing at the fart jokes.
Well, that's what we need.
That's what we need. Remember, you can always get a little orange out of it.
Like, man, these colors are just so vibrant.
They're just lovely, right?
Yeah.
Rinse out thoroughly. You're going to get a number 4 round, interestingly enough.
Interestingly enough.
Interestingly enough, get your number 4 round and load it with your quinacridone and a little bit of your zinc. It's okay if some yellow gets into it because it can be warmed.
Is this an unexpected round?
This is an unexpected round. You're going to come in kind of to the center of the galaxy, and you're going to just wiggle the brush.
Oh.
Find some little spots where you pull out a little bit of that pink from there. Pull that in a little bit. So it's that nice little detailing, right?
Yeah.
You're detailing out your galaxy.
This quinacridone is a really interesting color.
It's one of my favorites.
It looks kind of purpley, but then turns pink.
Yes, it's one of the better pinks. Opera pink is really good to use here. You could way get into the neons and have a blast.
Yeah.
Just remember that you're curving whatever you've got going on. And I'm going to leave a quite bright spot there for the stars. But you can see now what I'm doing is I'm shaping out those arms, aren't I?
Yes.
And that's what you're looking to do. Are you guys enjoying this?
Oh, yeah. This is really fantastic. The colors on this and the layers on this. So I'll have to go back over there. Jim was just joking about how you've taught them for sure to layer, layer, layer.
It's one way to get through.
Julia was saying that one thing Cinnamon has taught me is to layer, layer, layer.
Layer, layer with acrylic.
Well, yeah.
Well, and honestly, with oils, when oils are painted with properly, it's yes, alla prima, which is what Bob Ross made very popular in like in culture, right? He made that the most famous of the oil techniques. It's actually that was just for fast landscape painting. But oil itself generally involves thin glazes that layer over each other with long drying periods between. An artist will work multitudes of paintings at the same time. Really kind of fun. So yes, layer, 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 even if it's in oils. And every once in a while, peek at your... Oh, I think if it's possible, I even did it better.
I think it did. I think this is awesome.
I like the part where we take the little pink out. I just get a little crazy.
Oh, it's good.
Fun. And these little wiggles and the little trails, and you can kind of just define. It's almost like shading it, isn't it? And when you feel that you've got that pink layer in the way you want it, you know, it's a good idea. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow and some white, titanium white now. Not out very far. Again, I'm just defining the center. Some of this is going to be behind the mountain, so not such an issue. And I'm going to take some white. Just make sure that there's a hot point. When I say hot point, is that to my eye mentally, it seems like the hottest value, biggest contrast, brightest element. How is that looking? And quite good. While all this is having a think.
Having a rest?
Well, all this is having some rest. I'm going to take my dotting tool. I've got a small dotting side and a big dotting side. I'm going to take the big dotting side. And I'm going to come here. I'm going to go dot.
Oh. It's a power dotter.
I'm going to power dot.
You're pointing to it. You're thinking about it. But you're not dotting. Oh, you dotted.
I may have to put some dots back in. I just have some I know where they go. And I might as well let them start drawing. Now, also about this stage, we're going to talk about our mountain and drawing out our mountain. Now, of course, traceables are great. I highly recommend them. I'm going to put out a little of my, you know what? Yeah, a little of my carbon black, a little bit. And I'm also going to put out my burnt umber. I'm going to be making kind of a little dark line color. Probably burnt umber in the blue because that'll be easiest to deal with later.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this right here. I'm going to load these together. And we're going to talk about our mountain. So our mountain has a peak. The peak will be right about here into the galaxy, I feel. I might have to move it over. And maybe for the purposes of drawing easily on the canvas, I may dry everything for a second.
Yeah. And that just makes sure, as we said earlier, to make sure that there's, as you're coming in and painting these next layers of black, that you don't pick up and drag any of these other colors. Because any of that, the little white specks or any of the yellow, those colors, those can really, they can drag across there and get muddied, and especially in the whites, they're pretty powerful. So they can gray out your black paint. So make sure you just dry the surface thoroughly between your layers as they say, so that, you know, it turns out good.
All right. Little brown, little blue together. And the peak is up here. Go down a little bit and then kind of come out. Oh, there's a little jig jag. Down the mountain it goes. Let's say a little rocky outcrop comes up there, and then it's got a little rocky outcrop friend there. Then coming from here, maybe down a little bit, and then down some more, up, and up. Now over here, I'm going to kind of work this peak over here because I want this to come up a little bit and then down very uneven, and then maybe, park that there. Once I have that sort of outline, I want to create the first really highlight shadow division. So I'm going to come down from my peak.
Okay.
It's going to come slightly back to the left. I will arc that up and then maybe sharply come in, but then there's another little peak. And where some of this is will be what you would consider the highlight or the lighter side of the surface. Now also here, we're going to sit there and say that there's a little bit of a shadow on that peak there. And then this one certainly has a bit of one coming down, doesn't it? Maybe there's one. I'm thinking about being here. And then pulling this shadow here. And it's these bright sort of little moments. We'll say there's one happening here. Now also there's some other stuff, but we're going to want to get in the basic kind of highlight, low light. So the first thing you'll do is you'll take, like, let's just say a bright. I'm going to grab a number A bright. This is ruby satin. And I'm going to take a little bit of my cad red and my yellow and my burnt umber. And I'm going to come at the front here. I've got lots of adjustments, so I'm okay. Right, and make this light side of the mountain. Sure, we could palette knife across it. But what I find is that unless you're really comfortable with the shape and shadow of mountains, you end up with that weird kind of point. It's better that you spend a little time really studying what the mountain wants to do and then imitating that.
You know the problem with those pointy mountains? They're filled with lollipop trees.
Often they are accompanied by triangle and lollipop trees. And when we see that in our art, all that means is that instead of painting objectively at what we're looking at, we're painting symbolically. We're painting the symbol of mountain, not mountains.
Kind of like when the sun smiles at you.
Yes. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's an artistic choice, but it's one you want to be making out of choice, not out of not having another way of expressing yourself.
You're just sort of, I noticed that you're blending downward in that, creating little brushstrokey directionalness.
Right, we're pulling this down into the slope. So we've got the implication, a little bit of an implication of a slope.
Oh yeah. There's definitely, skiers could be envious that has no snow on it.
They could be.
Mountain bikers are like, I'd go there.
And for ease, we're going to come up here. And I do like to wiggle my brush and make sure that these edges in this world seems geologically impacted.
You know who wants to be on this mountain the most?
My dad?
Astronomers.
Oh, okay.
This has got some of the best view. I mean,
My
like,
dad would super ride his motorcycle on this mountain.
I would just go stand on that mountain and look at the sky.
It's the best galaxy sky mountain ever.
For sure.
And paint everything sort of through here with this darker color. And this is very blocked in and rough. Look, I'm not having to be very precious about my brush strokes. I'm not that worried about it. I'm just painting in that shadow value.
Yeah. The shadow value.
So this particular mountain is quite colorful. Let's come along here and make sure that this is shadowed. Mountains are as much made in the highlights and the snow caps as the shadows. They are all equally important.
Mm-hmm.
They have a very specific look, and if you get off, it just it does that that really rough thing to the artist. Now I'm going to put just a smidge of white into this because it's in shadow, but it's in slightly lighter shadow. I'm using the titanium white. It's still a very dark color. Coming up there. I can always work the highlights and the shadows easily against each other, so I'm not under any particular pressure. And this already almost has the highlight color on it, so I don't need to add it. Pulling this in, right?
That
Okay.
looks fantastic.
It's a start, right? You're probably seeing this in a different way than maybe you've seen some things before. And we have more highlights, more shadows to add. But until we get there, guess what we've got to do?
Dry it?
Dot it.
Ooh, dot. I was not expecting that. Dot away.
These are extra focal stars.
Ah.
I think that they are important to add to the Galaxy. I'm on the small tool. I was like, why is this taking forever? small dots. So I'm going to try to, feel random, but also create kind of an implied line about the arms. Now we're doing?
Many arms.
Well, we're just giving ourselves some focal stars.
Ooh.
That can be in the arms that are maybe carrying some things out.
It's quite a nice. We've got quite a nice afternoon here for a Saturday.
Yeah?
Yeah. Got coming to paint. This is a really awesome painting, you know?
Yeah.
And to hang out and paint this. Cinnamon doesn't get to see the chat over
I
here, guys.
don't. I have no idea what's happening in the chat.
Everybody's
I'm
really
always
enjoying
hopeful, but I have no idea.
The dotting. We got over 700 of our closest friends over here painting with us.
So glad you guys could make it.
They have been enjoying the show.
So if you're just starting out with me and you're in my one hoots, this is my goal for you. And then once you're doing this, you can pretty much take anybody's classes. I mean, anybody on YouTube, anybody in a classroom, anywhere, and be comfortable with the terminology and the techniques, even if you're starting from no art background. That's the goal.
Give you those skills needed to take on
the bigger challenges. And to be really painting for a lifetime. That's the goal. Definitely put some there. I like using the reason I put in my Galaxy set the 3 different splattering tools is because I think the big star, small star kind of effect really improves the look
It
of
does.
the piece.
It doesn't make it look so repetitive.
Yep. You do want to avoid repetition. Unless you're trying to make repetition, then by all means have fun. Carry on.
Yep. Wow, this is coming together a lot faster than I expected.
These have to dry for a minute. We'll sparkle them at the last. We'll give them glow and sparkle at the very, very end.
Glow
Now,
and sparkle.
glow and sparkle. So I'm going to take a, well, that was a little bit dirty. Get myself a fresh water here. And storing myself some fresh water up on the side, so I always have it.
Freshwater cash.
Fresh water! Take a little bit of my cad red and my yellow together. Maybe my burnt umber. I haven't even gotten into my burnt sienna. I may not get into it. Now let's come here. Let's make a little peak. Maybe that little peak comes down a bit. I may have to give it a little more shadow. And then this little peak could happen right there. Peek up, little peak. Peek away. And then let's really think about what's happening here. It's really lovely. I find it's just nice to begin that layering process. Yes, my mountain is colorful.
It's a very nice mountain.
I enjoy this.
Put a dwarf under that mountain, make him king, and you've got a story.
Right? Honestly, I gotta tell you, I'm on the dragon side. I'm that person. He's a rare animal. He didn't need to be digging under the mountain. Just let him have the mountain.
You know, I have a feeling that dragon rights activists tend to be snacks.
Well, probably. I wouldn't expect the dragon not to eat me just because I was being an activist on its behalf.
Dragon's all like, someone's out there to protest today.
Nummy nummy. Still have to do it though. A lot of dwarves, not that many dragons. Okay. So now right here, I have something that I have to take a small moment and correct for, and you may in your painting. I want to lighten the value a little bit around this cap so that it just stands out a bit. And how I do that is I'm going to take my zinc, maybe a little yellow into it, but definitely a lot of my zinc. And I'm going to come right here and just make sure, and look, I'm just using this brush, that there's enough of a light value along these peaks where they're too close. That's how light or dark they are. Little something that, you know, you'll be painting along and you're so busy working on the technique, right? Like, am I wiggling the brush correctly? Am I doing that you might not know to correct little elements like that to improve the paint. But as you can see when we get back now, that helps that peak pop.
Mm-hmm.
Pop the peak. What do I want you to do, guys? Pop the peak. To that end, I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow and some of my white, and I'm going to begin to highlight this part of that mountain. I've got a trick there for the top of that to make sure that they all stand out against each other. I'm going to go along here. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Tapping up and down, kind of make a little more noticeable raggedy point. And I'm going to just make sure I kind of know where that little highlight is. Yellow for this one doesn't have to be so light. I'll come back and lighten it again. It's also kind of a nice one that'll happen right here. Just a bit. And I may, that's just a bit there. Just catch the top of that.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a chance. If you can. Now I'm going to definitely keep working my blue and my brown together. And the first thing that I'm going to do, if I need black, I'll pull it over here. So I have just that slightly darker kind of range. I'm going to come along here and very carefully begin that outline. Of our points. You see that?
Yes.
And I am using my number 4 rounds so that I have a little bit more control. If I need to sharpen anything, it's a good time to do it now. The other place that I can definitely improve, and I may get even in a little bit of the black in it, is this here. To improve that peak.
Mm.
And perhaps this one as well.
That shadow, that gradated shadow really makes that.
Just starts to pull it together, doesn't it?
Yeah,
We're
it
actually
does.
about to flip that.
Really?
Yeah. It'll be lighter along here. Here, I'll show you. I'm going to take a little bit of my white into my brown and gray. And right here, and come up. Stuff above it will be here.
Oh, I see.
And come there. And this should, it is shadowed. Just maybe differently or less. Put a little bit of that brown and green there, and maybe work some of those interesting colors there. I think it's fun to give ourselves some different peaks versus these, so that there's different lighting, right? Even in the shade, there's snow, there's things that we're seeing. So that's how we're going to talk about the snow on that cold side. But first, I've got to get my dark value worked out. So let's get our black. Let's get our blue, our brown. Make sure we come along here. And get this deep value really worked out and addressed. So I'm going to bring it along the base here. And then come along here as well. It's going to be the deepest value of my mountain right down here. Very deep. Oh, this is a number 8 bright. Ruby satin. And I'm just brushing this loosely in. And you can see I'm just trying to say some shadow here, some stuff here, some stuff there. You know, get some white onto here. It's number 8, so I might come here and say there's some white on that mountain. It kind of implies a little bit of snow. Let's put some snow on this peak right here, right? And then I feel like it would collect up here. Come into the valley. Along there. Off the back here. And let's make a little ridge coming diagonally across there.
The shadow ridge.
Well, it's like a little bit of snow's maybe collected, and you're talking about little spots that maybe have a little more snow than other spots. A little more shadow, a little more snow. And then one more. So at that point, we should be feeling like, oh, that's kind of like some stuff has happened here.
Yeah. I like this a lot. It's turned out really cool.
Get a little of this together. Just curl this. This is that valley space.
Wow. That's just.
So we're starting to see the sun hit it. We're starting to see how the shadows get cast across it.
Oh, yeah.
Now maybe I'm going to take a little of my Dioxazine and some of my quinacridone, interestingly enough, and some white. Pull a bit of this. Or I definitely want some here. Pull that down. And interesting. A little more quin into it. The reason more quin.
Ooh. That's cool.
Sort of about how this might capture the light. I'm going to just pull some more quin into it. You're trying to talk about distant landscape. That's what you're doing.
Distant landscape.
Too much white, you come back in with another color and pull it out.
I guess.
Look at that go.
If you lived in Santa Fe, this might be local.
Maybe. I think at some point these things like become their own, like, oh, where are you at? I don't even know anymore. I might get a little yellow into that, so it's a bit more in the orange. Kind of loosely mixed. See what we've got here. Come along that ridge there. Highlight that ridge. Pull it down. That's nice.
That ridge turned out good.
It's going to be so pretty when it's all done.
I'm excited to see
I
everybody's
get some of my
version
CAD and Quinn again together, and let's.
Jennifer thinks that purple makes it really pop. I have to agree.
Yeah.
That's
I
really
also
nice.
agree. A little bit Quinn there. And let's go ahead and pull some of this bright color, perhaps right here, down there. Make it a little into the yellow, Quinn, just sort of together. We're just trying to begin to speak about these things. Because that's what we do as artists, right? We're speaking about these things.
Mm-hmm.
A little yellow, a little white, a little mixed into other things, so that's okay. And you can see it grays together, so that works well. Any deeper values that you need to get, grab them now. It's a good time to exaggerate. There we go. Once that's in, let's get back into our detail brush and do some little touches that are going to pull this all into its final realizations. The first thing I would want to do is I'm going to take a little of my blue and black. Pull some crags right there. Definitely right here. Let's put a little shadow behind this peak, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I come here and I add this shadow, it does help the peak show. And then where I thicken or strengthen the shadow talks about how much that rock face might be pulling away from the mountain or where the light source is. It gives us little bits of information about all those things. And I'm going to come right here and really define that. These two will sort of blend into each other. Maybe even, okay. Exaggeration is our friend. Now another thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to grab some white. Just a touch on there. This is like top point of the light, maybe some old snow has gathered. A little bit of that right there. How is that? Mm-hmm. Looking super good. Let's say maybe that there's a little bit of snow captured there, yeah?
So enjoyed this. This really came together nicely.
I think so. Now the last thing, I've got to dry it because I'm going to use my ruler to make straight lines on my sparkles.
I'll talk to these.
Wait,
nice
let me glow it and then dry it.
You're going to do what?
I got to glow it and then
glow
dry
it. Okay.
Yeah, so find any little zinc you have left if you don't put it out. And any yellow you have left.
Time to glow.
Time to glow the stars. They need a little glow. And then they need a little twinkle. Everybody needs a little glow and a little twinkle, do they not?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So come right here.
I'm not sure what happens when 800 people all wish on a twinkle at the same time,
The universe probably gets much kinder.
but I think it's good.
I say wish
Whatever's
away.
happening, we're doing it right. Twinkling good.
Twinkles are good. I'll go twinkle this star. Now, on the ones where they're over a light area, you may have to switch it to the titanium white to get an effective twinkle.
Is it a more powerful twinkle?
It's a more powerful twinkle over a light value.
It's the penetrating twinkle. Get through those clouds.
And we want it to feel like it's twinkling, right?
Right.
Just brush those through. You need a little white, get a little white. And make sure that those glows taking up your canvas.
Yeah.
That's a nice little grouping of 4 twinkles.
4 twinkles.
Let's twinkle them up.
So next, what she was saying is we're going to make sure that we're going to get that dry so that as she goes through and adds the little twinkle lines, that we don't drag any of the glow. Is she adding some more glow? Oh, I think she's adding putting some yellow on the mountain. She's hiding. I couldn't see it this way because she hid it there. But so there it is. There, she put some of that in there while she was drying. I'm not sure why. She must have decided that needed some more yellow. So that's what she did.
We're nearly done.
It is.
It is crazy. I thought we'd be here all day.
Nope.
Nope.
You've got 800 of your closest friends now painting with you, so say hello
Wait
to everybody.
To see your version.
I'm looking forward to seeing these twinkled up mountainscapes because this is probably one of my favorite galaxy painting designs that you've done.
I really like it.
So.
I like it. So my first trick is I'm going to get a tool called the T-square. Put out a little more fluid paint close enough to me where I'm not reaching across all the thing. I have these weird little Hello Kitty palettes that hold it on a ring, but for the purposes of this, we'll put it on the palette. Start at the middle top.
All right.
I'm going to use my T-square to not have unsteady hands. And I'm going to come here and twinkle out.
Whoa!
And twinkle out.
That's a power twinkle.
Power twinkle. Maybe a little more powerful than I intended.
It's good.
Silver
right.
twinkles!
Sometimes you need, that's like something coming out of hyperspace.
Possibly, yes.
It was like.
But the issue is that you want to try to keep these as straight as you can when you make them.
Especially relative to each other.
Yeah, I am not brilliant at freehanding that. So this is my strategy. You could implement a different strategy if you needed. So, power twinkling hard today. Don't know what that's about. There we go, the beginning of the twinkle. Then I go to the side. This is dry enough for me to do this. If your paint is thick and wet, you will have to dry it again with the hairdryer. I'm putting this out thin so it dries real fast.
Gotcha. That way you're not dragging the T-square.
That way I'm not. Otherwise I'd be making little lines all over the canvas. You can see I'm getting those little crossbars in there. And it makes a big difference in how they look on the canvas, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It's a weird little thing that makes a big, big deal.
Oh, that turned out so nice.
Put this guy here. Notice I'm moving the canvas, not myself.
That's to make sure you don't hurt yourself, right?
That's right. Okay. And I have a sneak peek at what's coming.
Ooh, that
talk
turned
about
out
the
so
difficulty.
good.
Materials. If there's anything weird that you need, we'll talk about it. I could cross beam these two. Probably would be good, but let's just get it done.
These little ones aren't nearly as important once you have the other ones squared up.
You can freehand these in fairly well. And
that makes it even a little painterly.
well, it's just...
Well, it does.
At some point, especially if you're galaxying like your kid's wall, at some point you're like, you just go X, 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 X. You start out like with that mama energy. We're like, I will make the most perfect twinkle stars in this mural. And then you're like, X, 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 X.
We need more twinkles. That turned out so good.
When you get that all done, give it a sign.
Oh. Boy, that turned out nice.
#1 monogram liner.
Yeah.
I know y'all want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's look at that real quick and then I'll show you what we're doing next.
Oh, that turned out so nice. That's so good.
Is that fun to learn how to do?
Yeah.
Now, this was a little bit more, and what I like to do, I have the calendar. If you go to the upcoming videos, I have it planned out through February 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that, so if there's a weird color that you want to get, if you have a question, you can ask me early. I also do that so that you can kind of see what's coming up that might be in your skill range. So I try to keep going through, because I've had people painting with me for 5 years, so they're all 3 hoots, and then some people are brand new today and they need a half hoot, 1 hoot. So I try to keep varying up that difficulty. So I'm going to show you a 1 hoot that you have and a 2 hoot that you have coming up. You guys ready to see them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So tomorrow, the 1 hoot.
Ooh.
So this is going to be super simple to do. Sea sponge. Or round craft sponge, whatever. Phthalo blue, phthalo green, cad yellow, quinacridone magenta, and white. You're also going to be using a fan brush a little bit. I did these reflections with a fan brush. I just wanted to show you could do them with a knife. And the scrapes are done with an artist knife. Here, so just, scraping down. So that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. It's going to be fast. So we're going to try to go on time now that we've worked out the technical issues. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a quick class. It's under 30 minutes, I imagine. So that's happening tomorrow, and it's half hoot, so it could be very good first painting. Sea sponge, palette knife, little fan brush, quinacridone magenta, phthalo blue, phthalo green, cad yellow. Are you guys ready to see what's after that on Tuesday?
Yes.
The 7th?
Wow. You've got a lot of these ready to go.
2 hoot. Now, this one has some weird colors in it. And the one that you've got to think about, I'm using Luminous Opera to get this psycho pink.
And
so it's quinacridone magenta, phthalo blue, phthalo green, Mars black, and the opera. If you can't get it, because sometimes this is hard to find, just grab the brightest pink that you have either in your paint box or at the store. It could be craft paint. It could be neon paint. It doesn't really matter. It's just a very bright pink. You just want a pink that you're going to put on at the end. It's like, whoa! That's what you're looking for. If it makes you feel like that, that's the right color. So that's what we've got coming up.
That's pretty great.
Here's what you did today. Check out everything that's coming up throughout the month. We've got a gnome coming up. We've got love trucks coming up. We've got girls and flowers again. Wisteria. It's just all the usual stuff that you guys have come to really love and expect. We're going to have you really hooked up for Valentine's Day. You're going to be ready before the holiday. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.